Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Keto Mom page. My name is Stephanie. For those of you who check in every morning, you're probably like, we know. But good morning. I hope you're having an incredible day. Okay, we are diving into chapter 3 of Atomic Habits. If you're brand new, we are going through a book every single morning to help you create a healthy system, to help you change your habits, to help you get moving in your forward direction and keep moving and not fall backwards. That's the key. Getting your mindset right. So as you're tuning in, where are you tuning in from? For those of you who are doing the 30-day miracle morning, so we did this in the beginning of June. How's it going? So you're on day 3. How are you feeling? I'm going to tell you something. I stayed up way too late last night, like late. And I went to bed, excuse me. I went to bed and I was like, for 2 seconds, I wanted to count how many hours of sleep I was going to get. And then naturally, my brain was telling me for a second, maybe you should sleep in. Oh, you've worked out the last 2 days. It's not a big deal if you give yourself some more sleep. You should probably count your hours of sleep. And isn't it crazy how your brain can take over and go, oh, let's just skip the miracle morning for the day. Oh, so it was my choice to stay up late. So I had to choose to get up and do all of my things this morning, right? There's a funny saying my dad used to say when I would stay out late in high school. And it was something like, if you stay out with the big dogs, you got to I don't even remember, but it was basically like, if you choose to stay out, you still have to get up. You still have to have the discipline to do the things you want to do. Otherwise, if I didn't, I would be waking up. My kids aren't even awake yet. I would be waking up and then feeling that regret of not doing my miracle morning, behind all day. And so we often talk about our why and our vision, right? And I don't ever want to feel that way. So even though I chose to stay up late, I got up this morning and did all of the things that I wanted to do. But I did that because I've repeatedly have gotten up. I remember that I don't want to feel behind feeling. So even though I chose to stay up late, I got up. Does that make sense? I want you to understand this isn't just about not eating the donut or working out or not working out. You have to be able to overpower this in a good way. And if you cannot combat the negativity and the little voices that say it's not a big deal, sleep in, you can start over tomorrow. If you slip up, you slip up, right? But if you make that choice, it's the 1% better or 1% worse. I wish I could get through people's heads the power of reading and their mindset. And if you can control this, then guess what? You can accomplish the goals that you want to go after. Super powerful. So with that, for those who are doing the 30 days, how's it going? You're on day 3. For those who are following along in your book, either you're going to listen and read it later today, but I'm reading through chapter 3. If you're just tuning in, awesome. I kind of felt like this chapter was like an awareness chapter. Kind of even more sciencey. So for those of you who are kind of was a lot to take in, it kind of is a lot to take in. But basically, he lays out the 4 simple steps to building better habits. And he walks you through a story about cats and how they train these cats. And really, he says, a habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. So I'm sure you could think of things in your life where you're like, oh, I don't even think about that. I just do it. It's as simple as I get in my car and you drive to the office and you don't even think about it. Have you ever gotten in your car and it's the same place that you go every day or every so often? All of a sudden you get there and you're like, how did I even get here? I don't remember driving through the stoplights. You've had the habit, right? It's a routine. Same concept, same thing. So he says, there's something called a feedback loop. It's a little sciencey, but I think it's super great just to have an awareness of how this all works, right? He says human behavior is you try something, you usually fail, you learn a lesson, and then you try something different. So he says, with practice, the useless movements fade away and the useful actions get reinforced. It's called habit forming. Whenever you face a problem repeatedly, your brain begins to automatically process and how to solve it. So then he talks about how habits are simply reliable solutions to reoccurring problems. Some of this I was like, all right, let's dive into some of the science. Habits do not restrict. So he said oftentimes people are like, I don't want to do that. I want to live freely. I don't want to be tied to habits. So he goes down this route of like habits give you more freedom. If you create healthy habits, you've got more time in your day to do other things. And so here's what he said. The process of building a habit can be divided into 4 simple steps. There's a cue, there's a craving, a response, and a reward. And so a cue, craving, response, reward. How's your morning going? Where are you tuning in from? And I would love to know if you're reading this with me. So he says, oftentimes the first one is a cue. So the first simple step is the cue. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. So he says, for example, your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environment for hints of where are the rewards. So we're looking for things, we're going after things, and we ultimately go, what is the reward if I do this thing? So because of the cue is the first indicator that you're close to a reward, it naturally leads to a craving. Cravings are the second step. So you've got the cue, the craving. They are the motivational force behind the habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, without a craving of change, we have no reason to act. The third one is response. The response is the actual habit that you have to perform, which can take form of a thought or an action. So cue, craving, response is the action that we take, and then the fourth is the reward. He said rewards are the end goal of every habit. So today I got up, I worked out, and my reward was I felt great. I felt like accomplished, right? That was my reward. I'm going to tell you something. If you reward yourself with food, you're going to find yourself in a downward spiral of not, like when you're going after things. Have any of you been like, I'm going to do really great all week so that I can have the dessert on the weekend, right? Like we've really gotten away from, even with our kids. Years ago, we said we will never use food as a reward. I don't want to go, if you do this, I'll take you out for ice cream. If you do this, I will let you have a cookie. Because you're creating a habit to where there's a cue, and then there's a craving. They do the action, and then they reward themselves with food. You should reward yourself with other things that are not food so that you don't create this vicious cycle of like having to lose fat, right? Or wanting to get back in shape. Does that make sense of not rewarding yourself with food? We did that a long time ago and just said, we're not going to do that. All right, so this is super great. Your response delivers the reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. We chase towards rewards because they serve 2 purposes. They satisfy us and they teach us. Good morning. She just woke up. Did you sleep good? All right. And here's the deal. If a behavior is insufficient in any of these 4 stages, it will not become a habit. Eliminating the cue and your habit will never start. Reduce the craving and you won't experience enough motivation. Make the behavior difficult and you won't do it. And if the reward fails to satisfy your desire, then you have no reason to do anything. Some of this I was like, all right, good awareness. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of what he means of the cue, craving, response, and reward, because he has a whole bunch of layouts. So for example, he says, you smell a donut shop as you walk down the street. So your cue is, I smell the donut. Your craving is, you begin to crave the donut. The response is you go buy a donut and you eat it. And the reward is you satisfied your craving with the donut, buying the donut, and so does this kind of make sense? I think sometimes we can be like, okay, so how do I stop doing that, right? For example, The cue, you wake up in the morning. So you're waking up. Your craving, you want to feel alert. You need to get energized. Your response, you go drink a cup of coffee. Your satisfaction is you are awake and alert, right? So all of those things create a habit. You wake up in the morning, you do those things, you drink your coffee, you do that every single day, mindlessly not thinking about it. So there are some habits that are fine and there are some habits that are not fine. Women, the cue, once a month, right? Once a month, you get your cycle. Men, if you're on here, sorry. Sometimes, naturally, women use the excuse of their monthly cycle as like eating whatever they want. I'm emotional. I eat chocolate during this time. So when you repeatedly have your cycle, then you might have a craving, and then you go after that chocolate, and then you've had the chocolate during that week, and then you've naturally created this like every time I have my period, I get chocolate. Does that make sense? He just talks about how easy we create these habits, good or bad, or we justify it, or we like feel a certain way, we respond a certain way, we get a reward, and that creates a habit over time. So here's how you change it. The 4 laws of behavioral change. Let's see, how to create a good habit. You make an observation, you make it attractive, you make it easy, and you satisfy yourself with a reward. Here's what has to happen if you don't want to do what you're doing. If you don't want to hit the snooze button, if you don't want to eat the chocolate, if you don't want to eat the donut, you have to break the bad habit. So you have to make the cue invisible, like the donut shop, right? You don't walk past the donut shop. You don't go put yourself in that environment. If you know that you walk into that coffee shop or the donut shop and you're going to buy a donut, then guess what? For the next 30 days, you don't walk into that donut shop. You've got to break the state. You can't keep doing those things that are going to cause you to react and to have that reward. You can't do it, right? So kind of like in the Miracle Morning, if you don't want to hit the snooze button, you have to remove your phone from the side of your bed and put it across the room. You've got to break the state. You've got to change the habit. So if you see this habitual like, oh, I always do that, I always eat chocolate for an entire week, then you have to get the chocolate out of the house, right? You've got to remove it. You've got to make it invisible. You have to make the craving unattractive. You have to make it difficult and so difficult. Are you going to, at 10 o'clock at night when you're craving chocolate, if it's not in your home, are you going to drive through to the gas station? Some of you might, but I hope you don't. You've got to make it more difficult. And so basically, he was just giving us an outline of like, here's how you create a habit. Be aware that you reward yourself, good or bad, right? There's an entire 4-step process. And if you find yourself constantly doing these bad habits, you've got to break the state. Not put yourself in that environment. You've got to change the pattern. You've got to make it more difficult so that you don't grab the cookie or the donut or the chocolate, or you don't hit the snooze button because you have to get out of bed to walk across the room to hit it and you're already up. Does that make sense? And so that was the chapter. I thought it was great. It was a good awareness. We are going to dive into the first law, which is making it obvious. So then now what he's going to do over the course of these next few chapters is really break it down. Here's what a cue is. Here's how you break it. Here's what the response is. Here's how you break it or you change it. So that's why I want to make sure we go. Oh, sorry, dogs. That's why I want to make sure we go through the book, not slowly, but chapter by chapter so that you can retain it. I'm reading a book right now called Limitless. It's just for me. Actually, I'm reading it to help one of my daughters learn, just to be able to help train the brain. It's all about brain. It's incredible. And in the book, he talks about how you should never be doing or learning or reading or filling your mind with something longer than 25 minutes without taking a brain break. And so I want to make sure we go through this and not try to rush through it, because you're going to have to internalize it. Maybe today you'll watch your patterns, you'll watch the things you do out of habit and have an awareness to go, oh my goodness, I did this. This is how I felt. I wanted to go grab the donut because we have donuts every single day, or is today Wednesday? Every Wednesday at the office. Maybe today's pizza day. I don't know. Every Wednesday I go to the office. I didn't pack my lunch because we have pizza day, but I want to change that habit, but I didn't pack my lunch. So now I need to go home to grab a lunch so that I can break the state to not eat the pizza. Does that make sense? Today should be an awareness of what do you find yourself doing out of habit or the habits that you want to get rid of. And if all you do is ask yourself, remember in chapter 2, he had a friend who lost 100 pounds, and every day, so she internalized it. She said, I am a healthy person. She identified with what she wanted to be. And then every day before she ate something or she decided to not walk and take the cab, every action or every meal, she asked herself, what would a healthy person do, right? So in any situation, especially today, as you are watching your habits and figuring out what things you want to break or maybe continue, you ask yourself, what would a healthy person do? If you've got to make a decision for lunch, what would a healthy person do? If you have to decide if you're going to skip your workout later today or not, what would a healthy person do? Ask yourself that question. And you will find that if you identify as a healthy person, not I am trying to be healthy, but I am healthy, guess what? You're going to make better decisions. You're going to make better choices. You're going to create and hopefully help break those bad habits and create new ones. So, super great book. I hope you're loving it. I love it. And message me with all the questions that you have. So I'm here to help. Continue to tune into the page. Whatever questions you have, send me a message and I will help you. So I hope you guys have an incredible day. We'll talk to you soon.